Yesterday, March 8th, was International Women's Day, and Brazil's government announced a whole host of measures to tackle gender inequality. On today's edition of Brazil This Week, we take apart these measures and we ask, are they going to make any difference? So, my name's Euan Marshall. I'm Deputy Editor of the Brazilian Report, and today I'm joined by my fellow Deputy Editor, Fabiane Ziolla Menezes, and our reporter, Audi. How are you both today?
Hi, Amanda. Hi, Euan.
So just to kind of get started here, this is happened on Wednesday, on International Women's Day. The Lula government announced this, kind of massive package of measures that were, focused on women. The headline measure of the package was a bill that kind of concerns gender parity in wages. That, paying men and women different salaries for the same job is already illegal in Brazil. But, what changes with this proposal? Amanda, what changes with this new proposal?
Well, there's a lot of things we have to understand of these measures that Lula announced yesterday. But this project, well, let's start. So there is already a rule on the subject. But this rule has been largely ineffective. Like there is a fine, but it's a small fine for employers who don't pay the same amount of money for male and female employee. So we know that in Brazil, women earn on average 78% of what men do in the same job. It's a great gap between these payments. And there's also the case of women who are in leadership positions. The difference is even greater, it's 62% of the male counterpart salary. Wow. So this new text that Lula presented yesterday, it provides a fine that is 10 times the highest salary paid in the company in case of non-compliance with parity. So it's a larger fine. And Lula stressed that this is gonna be mandatory. So he said that justice will have to apply these rules, and they're gonna be a higher inspection on the companies. So also in this announcement, the women's minister, Cida Gonçalves, she said that if we have this disparity of payments on males and females employees, there's going to be a net of 0.2 percentage points to the Brazilian GPD. So it's kind of a big thing, a great deal, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. As you said, I mean, it's been illegal for quite a while now, to have unequal pay for men and women. But yeah, the idea now seems to be that, as the planning minister Simone Tebet said, is that now the companies are going to feel this. This is going to really hit them in their pockets, which as you described, wasn't happening before. Thanks for that. Fabi, would you like to comment on that? And also kind of, if you could just kind of bring us in on a little bit more of some of the other measures that were involved in this package, because, that was the one that was, the main kind of headline, but there's more, isn't there?
Yeah, that was the most important one. And as Amanda has said, it was already illegal. The expectation is that with a higher fine, much higher fine than what we have today in our labor legislation, things will work better. The idea is that when whatever a woman sue a company for receiving a lower wage than lower salary than its men counterparts. The idea is that the fine will be higher, and then also that the money, that's a big difference too. The money will not go to the complainer, to the woman that is suing the company, but it will go to public funds. The idea is that this could prevent some false claims regarding the team or the issue, and that having this amount on public funds and directing these funds to other pro women initiatives, then the money will be better, I don't know, used for by the government. But this is also something that it can change when Congress started to discuss the idea. Besides this bill, which is, I think, is it was the most important measure announced yesterday. There were also some measures of not only social but economic nature announced as well. So we had, for example, at the same day, not exactly at the same ceremony, but at the same day, we had the president of Banco do Brasil, which is one of the state-owned banks here in Brazil, saying that it will launch an entrepreneurship hub focused on women with the help of several partners for women entrepreneurs. Also, we had Caixa Econômica Federal, which is the other state-owned bank, saying that is going to create or is setting up some laboratories, innovation laboratories in 3 cities. I think it's São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and Salvador, to better qualified women from poor communities, from favelas, in the innovation ecosystem here in Brazil, to prepare them to work with technology and other areas directly linked with the innovation ecosystem here in Brazil. Menezes, which is the Bank of National Development, also said that is planning to launch a project dedicated to accelerating startups led by women. Menezes already participated in several programs, acceleration programs in Brazil with other partners, other innovation hubs, and then is planning to do this initiative directly with women, with the startups led by women. So we had many of these measures also announced or I don't know, in parallel with the main ceremony with Lula speaking. I think that it was also yesterday that they announced the idea of having a public call, which is a certain amount of money specifically direct to women researchers. It would be something like 100 million reais, and then this amount will help to finance research and innovation projects led by women, and we also will serve to pay these women subside scholarships for them to work in this project. So we had these several measures announced together with this major one. And as Manu has said, we don't have much of the details of each one of them, of these measures, but I think it's a step forward. As a woman, I would say not enough is not enough, but I think it's worth having this kind of measures announced in such an important day.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting because I think a lot of the big kind of landmark measures and acts that Brazil has taken towards kind of fighting gender inequality have always kind of been based on like violence against women, because Brazil is a place where it's incredibly violent for women, really high rates of femicide around the country. And the measures, the public policies that come from above usually do target that. And because it's such a shocking issue, it's something that I think everyone can kind of empathize with, and it does shock all of us as a community. But maybe that could be to the detriment of policies like the ones you're mentioning there, Fabiane, like something that's a bit deeper and based on like kind of economic and social inequalities, which could maybe be the kind of foundation for solving a lot of other problems related to gender inequality. So, like Amanda, how this like dichotomy between policies against gender violence, or people who have suffered from violence, and policies, important economic and social policies for women. How has that balance been kind of addressed in this latest package from the government?
Yeah, it's interesting what you both have said, that the previous governments and administrations always focus on violence against women. That is, of course, a huge problem we have. But like Lula stressed many times that this time he wanted to do something for the after the after moment, after the violence, right? Because there's already a lot of actions to prevent violence and to, I don't know, to punish men who done it. But women who suffer the violence, they are I don't know, left behind in policies. So one of the measures that he announced is a kind of quota to hire women who suffer violence, or especially domestic violence, to governor contractors. So it's going to be 8%. It's not very clear how they're going to identify this woman, or how they're going to do it. Like, it's something that is very bureaucratic. So we have to see how they're going to organize this kind of, how they are going to put this thing to work, right? But yes, like we are saying, I want to bring some data about the Jair Bolsonaro government, that is our former president. He reduced the the money who was applied for policies against violence against women. So it dropped by 94% in his 4 years in term. So it's like a huge, how do you say it? Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's
The
like
money
that's
dropped a lot.
massive. 94% of a reduction in across his presidency. And yeah, it was never really seemed to be a focus of his government, did it?
Yeah, like in another Women's Days during his term, there was always some events with a lot of guys instead of women. And I guess it was last year. Yes, I think it was last year that he said that women was practically integrated with society. Uh, like, it's something that is it looks bad for someone to say, right?
Yeah, I think the Bolsonaro government has been criticised for a lot of its treatment towards kind of these kind of marginalised groups in Brazil. Well, I mean, women are obviously, they form the majority of the Brazilian population, but that does not mean that they're not marginalised in society. And yeah, so the kind of the treatment from the former government towards women, towards indigenous peoples, all that sort of stuff. There's this kind of strange, kind of patronizing, offensive kind of tone that was always taken from the government. But yeah, so we're just going to take a quick break just now. We'll come back later on with a little bit more discussion on these measures. Before we go any further, I just want to give a shout out for the Brazilian Report, which is the journalistic engine that runs this video, all of our other videos, our podcasts, and all that sort of stuff. And we cover Brazil and Latin America for an international audience, and we work on subscriptions. We're a subscription-only website, and that is what fuels our journalism. That's what fuels our reporting. And so, if you like any of our content, please do check out Brazilian.report/subscribe. You can check all of our plans there. We've got plans to, fit all sorts of budgets. I'm sure that you'd find something that is up your street on there. So yeah, once again, check out Brazilian.report/subscribe. So just at the second half of this discussion, I just wanted to kind of, to go back to something that all of us have mentioned already in these answers, which is maybe there's a bit of detail missing here. These are maybe kind of broad ideas, broad proposals, but we don't really know yet exactly how they're going to work in practice, and we don't really know whether they are going to be put into practice, because a lot of these things need approval from people who aren't just in the government. So yeah, how's the process going to work of taking these proposals and potentially turning them into laws? Are they going to look different? And when are we going to get details on this? Whoever wants to answer that.
Okay, so I think we have an idea of what they look like, but of course, like there are some measures that go to Congress to be approved, so they may have some changes in there, and like we know for sure that the government put an effort to do these measures, because there was 19 ministries that were involved and 3 public banks, like Fabio was saying. And we know as well that Lula has a narrow majority in the House. That is the where he really needs to have a majority to approve these measures. So he has a narrow majority, but we don't know yet how it will behave in a big vote like this, because so far there haven't been any of some, like a thermometer to understand how lawmakers will behave for projects that are presented by Lula. But we know as well that looks bad for politicians to reject measures that benefit women. Like it's something that their electorate will charge later, will demand some response, despite of the party, despite it's a party from the opposition party or something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting, as you mentioned, because we don't know exactly how much support Lola has in Congress yet. It's interesting because some people are saying that he has got quite a lot of support. Some people are saying, oh no, it's not nearly as big as you think. And yeah, it depends. I think maybe on the details that we do get from these proposals, just to see exactly how it's going to work out. So Fabiane, you were saying a few times in your responses that there's slightly unclear how a lot of these programs are work. Do you have any kind of other examples of these potentially?
Yes, even the measures that were announced by the financial institutions linked with the government, they don't have an exact date to begin. And I mean, they don't depend on Congress or any other branch of power, but we don't have the details yet. I mean, when the laboratories of innovation of Caixa Econômica will be set up in Rio, São Paulo, and Salvador, when Banco do Brasil will start lending money to women entrepreneurs, and I don't know what is the size of this initiative. How many, I don't know, millions of reais will be lent to women want to open in a business or scaling it, or doing anything else with this kind of money. So we don't have the details. Also, I think that Lula mentioned yesterday something that was only a promise, is not a concrete measure yet, which is ratifying a new treaty that Brazil is not a signature yet, which is the Convention 190, I think, from the International Labour Organization. The idea is that this treaty expands the concept of sexual and moral harassment at work So for Brazil to sign such a treaty would be like a complementary action for all these measures that were announced yesterday. I think that this still depends on some negotiation with other countries or at UN with our secretary there. So, as we said, we don't have many practical details about these measures, but I don't have any doubts that we will listen a lot about, we will hear a lot about these measures in the next few days, because as Amanda has said, they are all measures that are there's they're going to speak directly to the heart of Brazilians, So women's support, for example, was fundamental for Lula's election, and it will remain important throughout his third term. But as Amanda has said, I don't think that the Congress, even a conservative Congress such as the one we have today, I don't think that they will, reject the bill or change it, to turn it into something too different. I think one or other detail will be changed, but nothing more than that.
Yeah, I mean, it really wouldn't be a good look, right? Because a lot of these proposals are just like they're quite universally accepted things that they're trying to impose here. But yeah, I mean, it's what you said there about over the next kind of days and weeks we'll be going to be hearing a lot about these proposals, and I really hope that's the case, because I think some people could, take this as lots of measures have been announced, but perhaps not a lot of practical information or deadlines or figures or things like that, and potentially it's just all being announced because Wednesday was International Women's Day, as opposed to just kind of showing everyone like, yeah, we're working, we care about women, here's some ideas that we have. But I think maybe a lot of people would have been expecting or hoping for something slightly more concrete to be announced on Wednesday. But I guess we're just going to have to see over the next weeks. And just one more kind of question before we finish off here. Amanda mentioned earlier about the kind of the difference between this Women's Day and the federal Brazilian government and previous Women's Days under the Jair Bolsonaro government, and how it's been treated very differently. We had this massive ceremony that Lola started to announce these things, and it was all well covered by the press, surrounded by women. There was hardly a white male in sight, apart from Lola himself. And just why do you think, Amanda, that these kind of measures are so important to the Lula government? These kind of ceremonies and acts and symbolic things. Why is it so important to this Lula government?
Well, we are in the third month of the Lula administration, and so far, I guess we had events like this like every week or every other week.
Yep.
Lula is putting an effort, a huge effort to distance himself from Bolsonaro, and actually from his old administration as well. Like, he's trying to transform things very quickly. He's 76 or 77 years old. I don't remember the number exactly. I think 76. He knows it's his last term, possibly. And he's trying to make into Brazilian history as the big boss that made huge transformations. Like in his previous governments, he changed a lot of social ads for people in vulnerability, for poor people.
Yeah.
That became a huge landmark to his government, and all over the world there is Bolsa Família, which is a social benefit for poor families all over the country. And now I think he's trying to make other landmarks as this one, to be remembered as a man of the people. And like Fabi said, his electorate is mainly made by women. So during the whole electoral campaign, women was his leading electorate, and for him it's very important to benefit this woman, to show he's doing something, and like it's the administration with the most with more women on ministries than ever, but it's actually I don't know, I think it's not even half of the ministries, but despite of this, it's the highest number so far. So he's trying to look like he's looking for women. He's trying to do stuff for them, and to be remembered by this kind of big events and big announcements and big projects and measures that I think we're gonna continue to see for the next weeks or months or years maybe.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. Like when when you think about it like that, there's a decent chance that he's not going to run for a second term, so he has to already start thinking about his legacy. He doesn't have a lot of time left in government, and it's not as well. He might have a second term. He might run for a second term. Who knows? But yeah, no, fascinating stuff. I think we'll leave it there, guys, because that was like a really, really nice discussion, very informative. And just before we go, I just want to give another shout out to the Brazilian Report, which is the journalistic engine behind these videos and our podcasts, and obviously our website, Brazilian.report. And as we mentioned, we are we're based on subscriptions. So if you do like any of our work, please check out Brazilian.report/subscribe. And if you can't subscribe just now, or maybe you already have and you want to support us even further, you can also buy us a coffee on Buy Me a Coffee. That's a kind of like a donation site that kind of helps fund our journalism, our reporting on Brazil and Latin America. We have a QR code which will appear in the bottom corner of your screen, which will take you straight to our Buy Me a Coffee page, which is buymeacoffee.com/Brazilian Report. And also, you can donate any amount of money that you'd like there, but also we have a community on Buy Me a Coffee, which means that you can donate a regular amount of money and you will receive special extras like kind of behind the scenes newsletters, kind of more kind of interaction with the staff and the team at Brazilian Report, kind of find out how our journalism is done, and some exclusive content that is kind of not quite suited to the website, but is more based on like Brazilian culture and society and stuff. It's really interesting, so definitely check that out. So the only thing left for me to say then is thanks very much to Fabiane and Amanda. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Euan. Thanks, Fabi.
Thanks, everyone.
And we will see you next time on Brazil This Week. I'm Euan Marshall, editor of Brazilian Report. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.